So you want to start reading more, but you don't know how to start. Maybe you promise yourself that you're going to get through 20 books this year, but you realize that you haven't even opened 3, and you're feeling lost and directionless. From my own experience and talking with others, I know that most people find it very difficult to find time to read. And even when they do have time to read, they find it very difficult to get motivated to read and hold themselves to whatever goals they've set. So I want to give you 3 quick pieces of advice to hopefully help you read more and stay more motivated to read consistently and efficiently. And my first piece of advice for if you want to start reading more is that you have to know why you're reading. If you're telling yourself that you want to read a ton of books every year, but you don't have a specific goal in mind or any actual reason for reading all those books, then you're not going to be able to stay consistent and you're not going to be motivated enough to keep going. You need a specific reason for why you want to read so much. So for example, my dad is just super knowledgeable about random topics. He knows all sorts of fun facts, and it sort of feels like he just knows a little bit about everything. And I've always sort of strived to be someone like that, who sort of just knows a little bit about every topic and can kind of hold a conversation related to anything. And that's why I like to read a lot of nonfiction and just learn more about the world. And your motivation can be completely different, but it has to be specifically yours. So if you decide, for example, you want to be the best doctor in the world and you want to read a bunch of medical texts, then that's an awesome reason. If you want to learn about art because it's something you're passionate about and you want to get more into it, great, that's your reason. But you have to come up with at least one reason for why you actually want to get through so many books. If you don't have a specific reason and you're just reading because you think reading is good for you, but you don't have a specific idea of why you actually want to do it, it's going to be a lot harder to stick to your goals. Now, my second piece of advice is that you want to get to reading as quickly as possible when your day starts. Most of us think in a very all or nothing way. So if we haven't read yet in the day, we might think to ourselves, okay, this is just a day I'll go without reading. We think in an all or nothing way. So we never really think that, I'll read maybe 5 pages of this book. It's either no reading for us, or we decide, I'll sit down for a couple hours and read a ton of this book. And if there's any in between, we don't really like that. We think, I might as well not read because, just 5, 7 pages, it's not really that much. It won't really get me that far. If you want to read more books, you want to switch your mindset to thinking that any reading is a good amount of reading. And once you've started to read, your brain's going to think, okay, I've already done a bit of this today, so I might as well continue it. So if I get up in the morning and read maybe 5 pages of a book, I'm going to be more motivated to keep reading later in the day because in my mind, I know I've already started this task, so I figure I might as well continue it. And since we think in this all or nothing way, we very much like to finish what we've started. So we might feel a little bit of unresolved conflict if we only read a little bit and there's more time that we haven't used for reading yet. So read a tiny bit in the morning or whenever you find a little pocket of time in your day, and most likely later in the day, you'll also feel more motivated to continue with this task. Don't trick yourself into thinking that if you just wait until late enough in the day, eventually you'll feel motivated and you'll read a ton. It's better to, at the very least, get a little bit in earlier in the day so you feel more motivated to continue working on it later. And the final thing I want to say about reading is that, like any other habit, the more you do it, the more natural it feels. So if you go several weeks without reading and then you pick up a book, it's gonna feel very unnatural. I'm sure you've experienced that when you're reading for the first time in a while and you haven't picked up a book in a while, you're just reading slower, it feels more unnatural, you're getting distracted easier. Well, if you read every day, it feels a lot more natural to pick up a book and just get right to reading without distractions. So if you can acknowledge that the more you do it, the better you'll get at it and the more natural it'll feel, this can definitely help you in your efforts. In the same way as when you first get into the gym and you haven't worked out in a while, your muscles get really sore. But if you do it every day for weeks on end, eventually that soreness starts to subside and you just get used to it. It's very similar with reading, where when you haven't read in a while, it feels very unnatural, you're getting distracted easier. But if you find time to do it day after day, you'll start to get better and better at it, and it'll feel easier and easier to maintain this habit. And one last thing I want to say is that you should only ever read books that interest you. There's no sense in reading a bunch of literature if you're not going to enjoy it. Just reading something to be considered well-read or to impress others is never the right way to do it. I can assure you that besides you, absolutely nobody cares what you're reading. So do not read to impress others. Read because you want to improve yourself, you want to improve your knowledge or become more competent in a specific field, or just, expand your imagination, read some fiction. Read things for your own benefit. No one else is watching what you read. Nobody cares, so do it for you. And now if you're still watching, I really appreciate you watching until the end. If you like videos like this on studying and productivity for college students, I really recommend you subscribe. There's going to be a whole lot more videos like this soon, but until then, I'll see you guys.